Well, thanks so much to Bull Country Compost, and thank you all for staying with us. We do want to remind everyone that this coming Thursday is National Day of Prayer. And it's going to be a little bit different than National Day of Prayer in the past. Seems like everything is a little different this year than it has been in the past. But there won't be large gatherings at different flagpoles doing prayers. But we encourage you to, be aware. We want you to be praying every day. But, on the National Day of Prayer, we'd like to encourage you to think about praying even more often and inviting people to pray with you that day. Pray without ceasing goes without saying in the Christian world. But, not everyone thinks about that. And with all of this craziness going on, many people are in a panic mode. And as Christians, we want to make sure that we are really fervently praying for wisdom and for God's knowledge to help these people that are in this panic mode over what's going on. God has us covered. He has promised to keep us. Just like he said, how much more do I love you than the sparrow? And I take care of the sparrow. And he will take care of us. He knew how we were going to die before we were in our mother's womb. This isn't rocking him off the throne that the coronavirus is in our world today. He knew that this would be here. And he knew that if this was what was going to take you out, was going to take you out. And he knew, or he knows, that if it's not what was going to take you out, it's not going to. So I think that as Christians, we need to be, don't get me wrong, we need to be aware, we need to follow the rules, but we do not need to live in fear and just keep our faith. So right now, especially on Thursday, as Christians, we really need to remember the National Day of Prayer and really pray for our leaders that they make great decisions, that they ask for God's wisdom and guidance. And we just need to remember that let's all pray together on Thursday, throughout the whole day. But, at certain times, and the radio station will be reminding you throughout the day, different times about prayer and different things going on. But let's remember on Thursday to really, really just seek God's wisdom and to really be praying over our entire nation and our the whole world as that goes. But don't forget that next Thursday is National Day of Prayer. We want to get back to answering some more questions here, and we have had several questions about raspberries and blueberries and all of these things. So we want to go over some of those again. Several people are not sure about pollination. So if I buy a blueberry plant, can I get blueberries? If I buy a peach tree, can I get a peach? So these are some of the things that we have a lot of questions about. And so if you want to jot these down, you can. Or again, if you don't remember everything, you can always give us a shout and we'll answer your questions for you. So on your blueberries, that's going to be the first one we're going to go over. Blueberries, you have to have 2 different blueberries to get blueberries at all. So if you had, let's say, 3 blue crops, you're not going to get blueberries. You might get 1, 2, but you're not going to have a harvest. You're not going to have a great yield. You need the different varieties so that you get a nice yield, so that you have that cross-pollination. So if you have a blue crop, you're going to want to get maybe a Blue Ray or a Patriot or a Jersey, or a Northern Glow, so that you have a different type of berry that's going to pollinate your other, and then also that will extend your season because a lot of them bloom at different times and they produce at different times. So it's going to be a really good idea to not only have those so that you have the pollination, but also it's going to stretch out your season for you. And so you want to make sure that you're doing that. I would recommend doing 3 plants as a minimum and have all 3 of them different. If you want to do more than that, you could do 2 of the same, and 3 different varieties, or you could do a multitude. I think we have 5 different varieties in stock right now. Now, for raspberries, you don't need that. A raspberry is a self-pollinator, but always remember you're going to have more berries if you have more plants because you're going to be attracting more bees that help do that pollinating for you. So if you have one raspberry that is a black raspberry and you want a red raspberry or a yellow raspberry, by all means, you only need one. Grapes are the same way. Grapes are a self-pollinator, and you don't need multiples to have those. We had another question this week. If I have a seeded grape and I have a seedless grape and I plant them side by side, are they going to cross-pollinate and then both of them become seeded or both of them become seedless? Nope, that's not going to happen either. The one will stay seedless. The one is going to stay seeded, and grapes are going, if you're someone that uses your grapes only for the leaves, you can use either one of those grapes for your leaves. They are going to both have nice ones that you can make all of the dishes that you make with grape leaves, so you don't have to worry about which one. We also carry currant, and I think the varieties that we have in right now are red currant. So if you are someone that wants to do different types of berries, we do have some of those odd ones. We also carry goji berries. Goji berry is not hardy in our zone, so we do recommend that you plant your goji berries in a pot so that you can bring them in and treat them like a house plant during the wintertime. Also, we have fig trees, and if you are on Instagram or Facebook, you might have saw that this week. That was one of our quarantine plants of the day, was the fig tree. I took a photo of a very large one that we have and keep at the greenhouse, but we have the smaller ones so that you can actually have figs. Now, for the figs, it is a hardy fig tree, so you could plant it outside. But I have to say your harvest will be better if you leave them in a pot and bring them in the wintertime. You will have a much better harvest, a much better yield. But if you do put them outside, you can protect them. Several people do, and they get a few figs, nice sized ones usually, but you won't have quite as many as you do if you bring your fig tree in. Now for hardy fruit trees in our zone. We're going to touch on citrus in a moment. But for hardy fruit trees in our zone, like peach trees and pear trees and apples and plum, apricot, all of these types of hardy fruit trees, a lot of them are self-pollinators. Again, you are going to have a better harvest, a better yield if you have multiple trees. Now, some of them, like I said, you have to have a pollinator so that you will be able to have fruit. Like for example, your Bing cherry. Your Bing cherry tree has to have another sweet cherry tree to pollinate it, and it can't be another Bing. It has to be a different one, sort of like those blueberries are. So another sweet cherry tree, like a black gold or a sweetheart or some other variety of sweet cherry to pollinate those. Now, some of the other sweet cherry trees, for example, the black gold or the sweetheart, they are self-pollinators, so you don't have to have another one. But there are some that you will and some that you won't. Apple trees, most are self-pollinators, but again, you are going to have a better harvest if you do have that other tree. So all of those ones you can intermingle. You can do apple trees and peach trees and pear trees all in the same area. You aren't going to have cross-pollination again. So that you get a peach apple pear tree. That's not going to happen. Now, you can do grafting and get an apple pear. There are some grafting things that you can do, but that is a whole nother topic that cannot be covered in a 5-minute question answer time on our radio show. So if you are looking into grafting so that you can cross different types of fruit, you can YouTube video that, or you can come into the store and we can give you some tips. I am not a professional grafter, but I can give you some tips on things that I did learn 35 years ago in college, but I'm a grafter. So you might want to, do some research if you want to graft. But growing the fruit tree itself the way God made them, these are some really good suggestions to, just do them, know if it's a self-pollinator or not, and you're going to have a nice harvest. When planting these fruit trees, you do want to make sure that you never plant them too deep. And this is really for any plant. Planting a plant too deep and letting water get to the base of the plant and settle there is the worst thing for the plant. You always want water to shed away from the trunk of your tree or the base of your plant. You only want water at the outskirts, and what I mean by that is the drip line. But not everyone knows what the drip line is. The drip line of your plant or your tree is the outer edge of your plant where the leaf tips are, where if it was raining, it would drip off of there first. That's where you would, that's what we call the drip line. And that's where you want water to go, and that's where you fertilize your trees. This is a great time. Anytime in April or the very first part of May is a great time to get all of your trees and shrubs fertilized if you haven't done that yet. And at that drip line is where you want to do that as well. So you want to make sure that you get those in the ground. People ask also right now, when is the best time to plant my fruit trees? I like to plant everything in the spring because it's damp and you don't have to water. You can plant really any time as long as the plant is going to get adequate water. You can plant in July and August when it's smoldering hot. Why we don't recommend doing that is because if you're not going to diligently water the plant and it's a dry summer, then your tree will not take well. So you want to make sure that you're going to be able to water if you're planting at that time. It's easier on you, and it's not as much shock to the plant itself if you are planting in the springtime. It's cooler temperatures. You don't have to work as much. But just remember, sometimes the ground is really soft in the spring, and you want to make sure that you get that plant high enough that it doesn't settle when the earth starts to dry out and then the plant is too deep. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. Well, if you have questions that you would like to have answered, like we have answered the questions today, please give us a call at 330-455-5997. You can email me your questions at cindypetitti@gmail.com or go to our Facebook page. A lot of you are doing that right now. Anthony Petitti Organic Greenhouse is our Facebook, and give us a shout on private message of all of your questions, or stop out at the store. We are open for business. Several people are asking. Yes, you can come into the store. You can browse. We would love you to do that at 5828 Columbus Road. We're right there on the corner of Columbus Road and Broadway. So don't forget, it's about time to come on over to the store and get your Mother's Day gifts. You can do some shopping this weekend. You can place your orders this weekend, or you can go ahead and get all of your things this weekend. You might be busy next weekend. Who knows? You might be able to take her out to lunch next weekend. Who knows what's going to happen? But we want to make sure that you get all of those wonderful things for your mom. Remember, dads, your kids aren't in school, so that the kids aren't going to be making wonderful little things at the school for mom. So it's all on your plate this year. You got to make sure that you get something great for mom. She's been helping the kids with not just homework right now, but helping them be the teacher in some places. And so we want to make sure that we treat mom right and take care of her. We want to thank you all for being with us today, and we will be right back here next week with you here on The Light 95.9, celebrating all of our moms. Have a great week.